Tonight's species is the most popular fish in the nation. They can be caught from a boat, a kayak, or even standing on a bank. And even tonight, we brought in an expert to talk about bass, so get ready because it's time for the Florida Insider Fisher Report, which starts right now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome to September, everyone, and thanks for being with us on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. This week, we are back with one of the most anticipated shows of the season, our Bass Show, right, Rick?
You're absolutely right. You know, Brie, bass is certainly the most popular species in the nation, but we have the big lake here, Lake Okeechobee, and guess what? A lot of dudes on the bass tour, they certainly love to cut and fish the Big O.
They absolutely do. Well, in addition to our awesome live audience and a few friends from Valley Sports, we have a fun-packed show filled with big old bass, and Dave Farrell over at the CCA Workbench has our special guest, Scott Martin, bass angler extraordinaire.
Stealing money again.
Talking fishing today, my favorite thing.
Bass fishing, and he's going to do a really cool rig that you guys haven't seen.
I think this is the first show Dave's not going to say a single thing.
No, I'll say something.
There's no way.
There's no way. There's no way. They're both going to talk. All right, from the Fish Bites East region, where we have our bass report every week on some of the best bass fishing in the country, Mike Holliday says every cast counts, and it could be the catch of a lifetime. Let's talk bass, Mike.
Yeah, you know, it's true, bro. We have some amazing areas to bass fish in my region, from the canals at Holiday Park and the Loxahatchee Refuge to the regional reservoirs like the Stick Marsh, Garcia Lake, Headwaters Lake, and don't forget the legendary Lake Okeechobee or the Peacock Bass Fishery takes place in the Lake Ida Osborne chain. In my region, you can basically catch a trophy bass out of a mud puddle. And even some of the best areas are like just those backyard canals and lakes, the golf course ponds. There's even bass in those canals you see on the side of the road while you're driving every day. We're just so fortunate. We have some of the best bass fishing in the country, and you just really have to put in a little time to figure out what the fish are feeding on that time of the year, and you can do really well. Right now, we're in our summer pattern. That's where the fish feed heavily at dawn and dusk, which are the cooler periods of the day. That bite will often be over in an hour or two, although it will light up again a lot of times after you get a rainstorm, which cools the water as well. Then you got to kind of pick through them during the day. The fish are focused on juvenile shad and bluegills, so it's a good time to throw small topwater plugs or prop baits or any of the shad-colored soft plastics like a Bass Assassin Vapor Shad or an Elite Shiner or a Die Dapper or any small soft plastics with a chartreuse tail that will mimic a bluegill. Live shiners, we usually outfish artificials. The average bass in our region is going to be like 1 to 3 pounds, but anything over 10 pounds is considered a trophy fish. I have a photo. This is a nice Headwaters Lake bass that Brian McCandless caught. He caught that fish on a prop bait. Now, the other thing we got going, the first week of snook season started off with a bang, with a lot of fish still in the inlets and along the beaches. On the back of the full moon this week, we'll start seeing the extreme high tides of fall, and that will spread the fish out as they move back to their normal, fall haunts. There'll still be some good fish around the inlets for the next few days, as well as in places like the Roosevelt Bridge in Stewart, the Lake Worth and Juneau Piers, North and South Bridges in Fort Pierce, and the 25th Street Bridge up in Vero. And then over the next couple of weeks, we'll start seeing the fish move over, really from chasing the whitebait species to chasing mullet. As that fall mullet run starts to ramp up, we're starting to see some mullet pushing at night. And with these extreme high tides, the snook will focus on the shorelines, the seawalls, and docks, where they can set up ambush points for the bait as it moves down the shore. So start your day throwing topwater plugs or Die Dappers or sea shads in that black and silver or black and gold. The darker, the gold color if it's tannic water, the silver if it's clean water. Or you can pitch a live mullet up against a seawall. This is also a great time to take a break from the heat and fish at night, fish the shadow lines on the bridges or the dock lights. The average snook in my region is going to be 5 to 15 pounds. And I have a photo of one That's Bahio Sunglasses CEO Al Perkinson. He caught that slot snook on the St. Lucie Inlet on fly this past Saturday, and he let that fish go to fight another day.
All right.
I'll be darned.
Way to go, Al. Good job. All right, let's talk about some offshore fishing, Hollywood.
Yeah, the full moon of September is one of the best times to target wahoo in my region. Some of the largest fish of the year move onto the reefs, wrecks, and atolls to feed on the juvenile bonita and blackfin tuna. So some of the better places to target the wahoo are going to be like the reef off Palm Beach and 220 to 280 feet of water, the reef off Jupiter and 180 to 250, Push Button Hill off St. Lucie Inlet, the 8 Mile Reef, the Ocalina Bank, and the Steeples area from about Fort Pierce all the way up to Sebastian. And the real key to wahoo fishing is to get your baits down below the surface. You do that with a trolling weight, a plane, or a downrigger, or you can use go old school and use a wired line. You want to bait up with a double hook ballyhoo or a swimming mullet with number 8 wire. You can fish them naked if you want, or put a R&R tackle wahoo magnet in that red and orange color right in front of the baits. You want to troll maybe a little bit faster than normal, say 9 to 12 knots, because those fish like a fast-moving bait. And the average wahoo in my region is going to be like 20 to 40 pounds. But this time of year, we do catch some really big fish up closer to 100 pounds. And I have a wahoo photo. That's Terry Sandow. He caught that wahoo trolling in 100 feet of water off Hope Sound. And that fish ate ballyhoo with a red and black lure in front of it.
All right, tell me about the snappers, bub.
Yeah, the mangrove snapper bite's been insane all week, whether you're fishing the nearshore rock piles in 25 feet of water around Peck's Lake or the Vero Cove, or you're looking for those big grovers that are out on the reef in 65 to 80 feet of water off Fort Pierce or Bethel Shoal. What's nice about mangrove snappers is that you can chum them right up to the surface and drop back a bait into your chum line and pick away at the fish. Target the fish with live or dead sardines, pilchards, cigar minnows, threadfins, even finger mullet. They make great baits for snapper. For the 1 to 3 pound fish, a lot of anglers like to fish the bait on a small jig head and just drop it back down on the reef. Target the larger fish with a 3-way swivel rig where you have 50-pound fluorocarbon leader coming off, one piece of the swivel with a 5/0 circle hook, and a weight with just enough weight to hold bottom on the bottom of it, and then the other attached to your main line. The average mangrove snapper in the region is going to be 1 to 2 pounds, but we do catch them up to about 10 pounds this time of the year. I have a photo. That's Jason Stutzman. He caught that fat mangrove in 80 feet of water off Fort Pierce. And that fish 8A frozen Spanish sardine.
Yes,
Wow.
it sure did, bud. Thank you so much. Thanks for starting us off, Mike. We're going to take a look at the TH Marine hotspots. He says, inshore, the tarpon on the north side of the St. Lucie Inlet, slow troll, live mullet, pilchards, or a threadfin on a 7/0 trocar circle hook. And then offshore, mutton snapper, 70 to 80 feet of water off of Hobe Sound. Use pilchards, sardines, or grunt plugs for those snappers.
Snappers. You had to say it like that, didn't you?
I did.
You did. All right, let's head into the southeast region and check in with Captain Jimbo Thomas on where to catch bass and more. Go for it, Jimbo.
Hey, Brie, Rick, and Dave, and everybody else in the studio. You know, in the southeast region, largemouth and peacock bass can be found just about anywhere there's some fresh water. One of the great things about bass fishing is that you don't need a boat in most areas, and the wind and the weather definitely is not as much of a factor as in offshore fishing. Now, the Everglades has some great bass fishing, especially when the water levels are low, and that will concentrate the fish in the deeper holes, and catches of 50 or more fish a day are definitely not uncommon. And then when those water levels get a little higher, which they're starting to get a little higher right now, those fish will move up onto the flats and they get a little more spread out, but the fishing can still be excellent. Also, the urban lakes and canals of the region offer some great bass fishing, again, for both largemouth and peacocks, and they're not affected by the water levels so much. Now, the largemouth bass bite is best early in the morning and then later in the day and into the evenings when those water temperatures aren't so hot. And those peacocks, they usually like to bite best right in the middle of the day. They don't mind the heat one bit. Some of the best baits are live shiners, live brim, bass assassin artificial worms, surface lures, crankbaits, and spinner baits, just to name a few. Now, I got a photo. The first photo here is of a nice largemouth bass caught by Don. I didn't get Don's last name. But he was in the urban canals of South Dade, caught that on a crankbait fishing with Captain A.B. Raymond. Got another photo here of a nice peacock bass, and this is Will Flynn with a nice neighborhood lake-caught peacock bass. He's been catching a lot of those nice ones down in South Dade. Now, snook season opened last week. There's been a lot of snooks being caught in the inlets and off the oceanside beaches throughout the whole region. Off the beaches, those snook have been cruising the troughs that run parallel to the beaches. Best bite's been early in the mornings. Those snook can be sight fished with live baits, jerk baits, soft plastics, and even fly tackle. You want to look for areas that have bait activity. That's where those snook are going to be chasing those live baits around. In the inlets, you want to get out there early in the morning or then late in the afternoons into the evenings. That's when it's been best on the outgoing tide. Live baits have been producing the most bites. Live pinfish, herrings, croaker, mullet. You want to bounce them along the bottom using a Jupiter rig. If you don't have any live bait, you can try bouncing 1 to 2 ounce R&R tackle flare hawk jigs or soft plastics along the bottom or troll deep diving lures. Now moving offshore, dolphin fishing in the past week's been either really good or just so-so. Depends who you're talking to, how lucky they got, what they have to find out there. Or on floaters, most of them on floaters, or if you get lucky and find the right school. Now most of the fish are being caught on and around the floating debris, and the bulk of the stuff has been anywhere from 8 to 10 miles offshore. There's also been scattered grass out there in those same areas. In the Miami area, there's been a nice rip and weed line out in that 8 to 12 mile range. And that's been holding the sargassum in the floaters. There has been some birds working over some of the fish. They've been eating trolled baits and lures. Once we locate those fish, we've been pitching live and cut baits to them. Most of the fish have been decent schoolies in the 4 to 6 pound range, but there have been some larger fish mixed in. Now moving a little further offshore, this is one of the best times of the year to catch a big swordfish. In the daytime, you want to fish with rigged squid, bonita strips, or dolphin belly strips. Fish them down on the bottom in that 15 to 2,000 foot range. And the morning bite seems to be the best from the reports I've had. Then in the evenings, when those fish come up closer to the surface, you want to fish a staggered spread of squid and live baits. Most popular live baits are blue runners and rainbow runners, speedos, and tinker mackerel. And these swords can be anywhere from 60 pounds to giants of 300 pounds or more.
All right, thank you so much, Jimbo. We're going to go ahead and take a look at what are we smoking. Fish dip from hot spots from the southeast region. He says inshore, look for the snook in all the inlets and off the beaches in the early morning and the evenings, fishing with both artificial and live baits. And then offshore, look for the dolphin offshore hanging around, floating debris. Have some live baits in the well, and then have some cut baits ready to go.
That R&R Tackle Southeast region is on fire, but we're getting our bass on in the StarTron Central West region coming right up. But first, Dave Farrell is getting his Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques on at the CCA workbench with the one, the only Scott Martin, head honcho El Jefe.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, we're going to be talking about this rig here. Is it a Texas rig or a Carolina rig? It can be both.
It could be both. We'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Sirius XM Marine. Weather, fish mapping, entertainment. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Real Legends. Everything you need to live life local. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Stiffy, innovators in shallow water performance. And Daiquiri Deck, food, drinks, friends.
We're here at the CCA workbench and Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques. We got Scott Martin here, the king of
Thanks for
bass
having me
fishing
back,
for us.
Dave. Rick, Brie, everybody. It's awesome to be here.
Always good to have a pro in the house. You know?
Well,
telling us about bass fishing, because it's one of the things I really like to do. We're going to talk a little bit today about a thing called a convertible rig, and I thought I discovered this, and then you came in and told me otherwise. But it's a rig that easily converts from a Carolina rig like this into a Texas rig, where the weight is all the way down onto the bait, and we're doing it without swivels and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's the deal. It's a convertible rig, so this time of the year, it's the time of the year, like, you're getting a lot of rain, getting a lot of water inflow into your rivers, into your canals, into your lakes, and it's summertime still. The fish are really wanting to get out there in that little bit deeper water, and so a Carolina rig is a great technique to catch a lot of bass in Florida.
Right.
Especially
has been forever.
Yeah, and you can win tournaments this time of year. Like, I'm talking big bass, but also the standard Texas rig, you can't go wrong. So this convertible rig here, again, depending on where you're fishing, you can obviously make a Carolina rig, but here's what's neat about this Carolina rig. It's completely adjustable. I can make this thing 2 feet long, 3 feet long. I can make it 6 inches long. I can do whatever I want with it. So easily I can kind of keep adjusting that length of that leader to see how these fish are going to react to it, depending on where I'm fishing. Right. Now, I get into some thicker grass, right? And I say, okay, maybe I don't want to do the Carolina rig right now. There's a little bit too much grass. I want to flip and pitch. I can pull this weight right down to there. You got your standard Texas rig right there. Good to go. And so it's, again, I call it the convertible rig. It's a way to catch a lot of fish this time of the year. You can rig it up on a lot of different things, but again, it's simple. You don't have to worry about swivels.
Right. Well, it replaces this kind of thing.
Exactly.
This is a Carolina rig that you'd buy in the store, and it's got swivels on it and beads and whatnot. And, it's a big chunk of stuff.
Yeah, all you need here, this is how you rig this thing up. It's so easy. So you're going to go to your tackle shop, you're going to buy some bobber stops, okay?
Right. That's what these are.
Exactly. And what I suggest doing is going to the bass tackle section and buy the bobber stops in the bass tackle section, because a little bit bigger.
Yeah, these are little tiny ones.
Those are more your panfish and stuff.
Right.
But I'm going to put 2 of those bobber stops, okay, on my line first, okay? And then I'm going to put on the weight, half ounce, 3/4 ounce. Kind of depends on how deep you're going to fish, right? If I'm in 15 to 20 feet of water, I'm going to throw a little bit heavier, maybe a 3/4, 1 ounce.
To get it down there
quicker. If I'm fishing shallow, so shallow little cut or something, 5, 6 foot of water, throw a little half ounce.
Does it matter the weight as far as how much weeds are around too?
Well, it does. If the grass is really, really thick, you're going to want to go a little lighter in your weight, so that weight just kind of glides through that grass a little bit more effectively. Now I'm going to add 2 more bobber stops to the bottom, okay? And what that does, it basically locks that in, so that weight cannot slide down. And then I'm going to tie on my favorite hook, which is just a 3/0 EWG Trocar, and rig it up with your favorite little soft plastic. This is a soft plastic jerk bait,
right?
And I like that. I like this style bait a lot this time of the year, because the fish are feeding on shad, and they're also not that aggressive, because again, it's still summertime, so it's hot, and fish, believe it or not, they actually like those kind of lethargic baits, right? You'll just seem to get more bites that way. Now, if I'm in an area where I'm going to go flip and pitch, and move this thing down to your standard Texas rig, then I may go to a traditional, type of creature bait like that. But I would say most of the time, I'm going to rig it up just like that. And again, the beauty of this thing right here, it's simple. You don't have to worry about swivels. You don't have to worry about tying 4 or 5 different knots. And the convertible rig, it'll catch bass really, really good.
What kind of line are you using? Are you a pound test?
Typically 15-pound fluorocarbon is what I like. If you go too heavy, especially in that deeper water, you seem to want to lift the bait up a little too much. So that 15 to 17 is kind of where I'm going to probably stay at most of the time. And straight fluorocarbon. I like the fluorocarbon has a little less stretch, so you get a bit more sensitivity. And that's important, because again, this time of year, those fish are out there, they're a little lethargic, they're not really wanting to eat. You got to trick them. They're not super aggressive. So if you can get a little extra sensitivity to that line, that fluorocarbon makes a big difference.
Yeah, I use a braided line for my main line, and then I'll put like a 15-pound fluoro as my leader. And what's really good, if I use a double uni at the top, it'll keep my little one, because I usually put 1.
Yes, right.
And you just taught me today to put the 2 on, because I've only been putting 1 on, and sometimes when I put just the 1 on the top,
slides a little bit,
or the bottom, it'll get loose, it'll slide up, and then I'll be reeling my little black stopper all the way up to my reel, and I'll be cranking, going, how come I'm not cranking?
That's right.
And it's because that little joker
I like
has went all the way up there.
I like the 2 bobber stops. It's the way to do it. And again, your colors on your soft plastics in Florida, there's 2 colors that I like. Your black and blues and your watermelon
They're
reds.
eating the bluegills right now, so this is what I'm throwing.
Exactly.
The fat job with the black and blue.
I love that little firetail too.
Right.
But a little watermelon red, you can't go wrong. It imitates a bluegill, obviously. And it's a deadly technique. The rods, I like on this type of technique, I like a 7-foot rod. I'm not going to throw a real short rod because typically with this, when you have it, especially in the Carolina rig setup, you're going to lob it out there a little bit more.
Right.
So a little bit longer rod is good. I like a high-speed reel.
Especially if if you're really wanting to make it longer, it helps with that longer
rod. I like
rod.
a high-speed reel too. An 8-to-1. I'm a big proponent of a high-speed reel because you get that bite. And that fish is swimming around and creating some slack, and you can reel up a lot of line quick with that 8-to-1 and drive that hook home, and you're going to catch a lot more fish. You go out there with a 5-to-1, you're going to have a problem trying to reel up your line to set the hook. You
can't catch it up.
Yep.
I got you. Well, hey, man, that was some great stuff. I really appreciate we filled that time quickly, and we really appreciate you coming, man. I wish we could have you back every show.
We'll come back and do some more little tips and tricks.
Brie, are you kidding me? I mean, is anybody in here want to go bass fishing? I'm ready.
Oh, I do.
Let's just go.
Two Baba stop
Come
fishing.
on,
Let's go.
And I think we all just go get in Scott Martin's boat. All right.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
I'm ready.
All right, we're seeing how the bass are biting in the Star Trend Central West region with Captain Jeff Page. So, Page, tell us how we can get a little freshwater bass loving in our lives. Go for it.
You know I will, but I gotta say that Scott Martin smooth as the other side of the pillow. In the Star Trek Central West region, of course, we have golf courses and residential ponds that they stock, and a lot of guys catch bass that way, and some good bass. But if you get out east of Sarasota, Bradenton, Tampa, you're going to come into towns like Arcadia, Sebring, Parrish, which all have good bass fishing, accessible bass fishing, lakes that you can launch and get in. Now, we also have the Peace and the Myakka River, and then to the north, the Manatee and the Hillsborough River. And they all, as you get out east in them, they all hold good bass. Now, what do you use for tackle when you're going to places like this? Well, Scott Martin was telling us some good tips, but I like to keep bass fishing simple. I like to bring a pack of rubber worms, maybe a Texas-style weedless hook and a slip weight, and then maybe a stick bait of some sort that I can float and flash, and I think they call them jerk baits in the freshwater world, but something like that. And then, of course, if you want the big one, Roland Martin always told me, put that shiner under a corkle, son. And that works probably anywhere in our state. That shiner, especially during these hot months. Now, when we get into the wintertime, the bass fight goes on most of the day. And there's a place out in Parrish that they open up in, I believe, March, and then again in the fall. And you have to get on a list. But it's not uncommon to go out there. It's at the FPL Impound in Parrish, Florida. And you can have 100 bass days out there. Anyway, I could go on and on. I got 2 bass photos tonight. First one is one of my good picture takers, Jake Glunk, with a big old chunk bass he caught on a lure that he carved. That's called the Bird Dog, and it's kind of a popper. And then my second picture is of Seth and his son Carter Masaskis, and those guys fish out of Premier Tackle out in Lakewood Ranch, and they fish all the lakes out east. Staying inshore, Rick, nighttime snook fishing in particular has gotten really good because we have a mullet run too, not as famous as the East Coast, but those mullet are starting to push through the ICW a little stronger, and shrimp have been flushing out on that outgoing tide. Captain Dave Parmalu, a.k.a. the Mad Snooker, has been having 40 and 50 snook catch and release, of course, trips at night using primarily ladyfish and silver mullet, and then he's gotten a few on some types of swim baits that he's been using. I've also gotten a report from the Glunt brothers, did a pretty good topwater bite around Palmasola Bay early in the morning, throwing that Berkeley Jaywalker 120 in the bone pattern. Our photo tonight is of happy clients of the Mad Snooker, Captain Dave Parmalu. And now we're going to roll offshore, the amberjack fishing. They always in the summer, especially late summer, they kind of show up strong just like the redfish. And those amberjacks are out there 90 to 150 feet of water over springs and ledges, live pinfish, probably #1 bait. And you can send him down on a Carolina knocker rig. or you can vertical jig them, or you can chum them up with pilchards and throw heavy-duty heavy-duty hardware poppers. My AJ photo tonight is Happy Client from Captain Jason Stock of Full Fin. And my last species tonight, the gag grouper. The red grouper closed, the gag grouper remains open, and it seems like that's the #1 target along with our mangrove snapper. And they haven't let down all my offshore captains. 150 feet, they've been getting the bigger ones, but in as close as 100, they've been scoring some keepers. Again, live pinfish, but definitely bring some boxes of frozen sardines and a live well full of pilchards if you can. My last photo, I don't have the young man's name, but that was a big gag that was caught in the Sarasota Slam tournament last weekend.
All right, thank you so much, Captain Page. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the Central West region. Captain Page says, inshore, nice redfish schools of mostly overslot fish are showing up on the flats from Long Bar north of Terracea Bay. Live pinfish or a 1/4 ounce gold Johnson spoon is the best bet. And then offshore, huge amberjacks holding on the ledges in the springs in as close as 90 feet of water, live pinfish, or you can vertical jig them as well, Brie.
It hurts my back already. Getting
Yeah.
old here.
House of pain.
9 years later. All right, the West Marine CCA Florida Star competition ended Monday, but the winning has just begun. The winners of the competition will be announced next week, so check out the Star website to see if you are one of them. There will be over 100 winners who will be awarded their prizes on October 8th in Cocoa Beach at the Star Awards ceremony presented by Visit Space Coast. We want to invite you to come join the FIFR crew as there will be fishing celebrities, raffles, auctions, live entertainment, dinner, and each guest receives an awesome swag bag. Plus, one fortunate winner will get to go fishing with the Florida Insider Fishing Report captain of their choice. Tickets can be purchased by going to the ccaflstar.com website for a great evening of fun. That is going to be quite the show. Everyone's going to be there.
Always is.
All right, when we come back, we're seeing what the Real Legends Central East and Garmin Panhandle regions are reeling in, and we're talking with our friend from Bally Sports. So stay hooked, and we'll be right back. There they are.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Bahio Sunglasses, blue light blocking, radically clear lenses. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure. R&R Tackle, from our tackle box to yours. Florida Coast Equipment, your local Kubota dealer. Coast to coast, we've got you covered. And Garmin, plot your paradise.
Well, as you can see, joining me here is my good buddy Steve Tello, the general manager of Bally Sports Florida and Bally Sports Sun. You know, Steve, we learned during the COVID the last couple years that, you know, people really need to be outdoors. We couldn't do anything else. A lot of the professional sports that you guys host, they were shut down as far as live audiences. What do you think about
Well, you know, live sports is what we do, right? We represent 6 teams here in Florida, but you know, what we saw, outdoor sports, you know, fishing and golf, both, you know, hunting, people could go outside, and if there is a silver lining to the last 2 years, it was that people could go outside and participate in sports like fishing.
You know, nationwide, we grew 11 million licenses, so almost 60 million we broke. But Florida and Texas is the leading states, Florida being #1 with registered boats as well as licensed anglers, and Texas being #2.
Right, and that's where your shows are. So maybe that's the key. What do you think?
Well, I think because you're a really smart guy, you've been in the TV business over 50 years. I've had a lot of great advice from you. We certainly appreciate that we have the Florida Insider Fishing Report, and we absolutely have the Texas Insider Fishing on Bally Sports Southwest. But Steve, you know, we have Sportsman's Adventure going to be celebrating our 30th year here soon.
Network-wide.
And so tell everybody why it's so important to support all the local RSNs, which means regional sports networks.
Well, you know, we are not a national network. We have rights to 44 teams around the country. And to support those teams and to watch those teams, you know, helps the community, right? And helps, you know, viewership. And we just think that, you know, our mission is a local mission to run these games. We do 700 live events a year. here in Florida and your show. So we're proud parents of these teams and you. Although you told me if I came tonight, Brie would do this interview and not you.
I had
I'm crushed.
I had to use some type of bait. Like always, I'm a fisherman, always fishing. Guess what? I chummed you right in.
Right, and I'm the mullet. Right?
And you fell for the bait.
Yeah, okay.
Listen, I want you to know we're so grateful at RM Media to have the relationship that we have with you guys, and more importantly, all the teams that we have. Man, it's so good to have the Rays winning. We got to work on our Marlins a little, but the Heat,
We're assigning the Marlins to you because we figured that the Marlins will listen to Captain Rick. We're hoping anyway.
Well, I don't know that much about baseball, but I can teach those dudes how to fish for sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming and seeing us.
Brie,
we do need to go to another region, so where would that be?
Next time, Steve, next time. I'm not just chum over here, I promise. All right, I think it's safe to say that the Rio Legends Central East region is on fire when it comes to bass fishing, so let's get right into it with Captain Jim Ross. Go for it, Jim.
Brie, and everybody in the studio, thanks for coming in. This is the last live show. Dave and Rick, everybody that's in the studio, thanks for what you guys do. It helps us out here, not just me as a contributor to the show, but also everybody in my region. It helps everybody catch more fish, and that's what this show does, and that's what's really cool. And speaking of catching more fish, I'm going to brag here. I think that the Central Florida region is probably the best place in the world when it comes to catching trophy bass. And, we have some huge names when it comes to big bass lakes. We've got East and West Lake Toho, we've got Lake Kissimmee, we've got Lake Hatchnahaw, the Butler chain, the Claremont chain, the Harris chain. And holy cow, the new headwaters that's down near Stick Marsh and Farm 13, which are legendary in their own right. I'm telling you, my place is the place to be. The Real Legends region in the central east part of the state catches some bass. Now, here's how we do it. We get out there with some big swim baits this time of the year. Let's talk about lures. The Assassin Die Dapper and the Boss Shiner are great for bass that are holding it around Kissimmee grasses or the edges of the hydrilla. Punch crawls are really good for flipping into heavy cover and mats and cattails. And then, a good old Texas rig or a good old Carolina rig, it's hard to beat those two. Even if you're fishing a little bass, a little backwater pond, a little retention pond, that you may be bordering with your house, it doesn't matter. Or, some place that's world famous like the St. Johns River. We have bass in this region. And I'm telling you, if you're looking for good bass, right now they're catching 20, 30, 40 bass a morning. And then even in the evening times after the rains, we're getting good numbers of bass. Most of these fish are 1 to 4 pounds, but like I said, these are trophy lakes in my Central East region, and a 10-pound bass can come on your very next cast. So make sure you get out there and give it a try. Now, my inshore species this week is snook. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened on September the 1st. So September the 1st, snook season opened up, and all 3 of the inlets in my region are reporting really good snook near the jetties right now. Pinfish, croakers, pigfish, and menhaden are the top baits to use. Put those on a slide and sinker rig or, a knocker rig or a heavy split shot with about a 5/0 to 6/0 circle hook. You can also have some great success at night. Lip diving plugs in blackback and greenback with a silver side are working really well around the rocks. The Bass Assassin Die Dapper, rigged on a 3/4 ounce to up to about a 1.5 ounce head, or an R&R Flare Hawk bucktail in that same size and weight range, will do really well at these inlets at night. The redfish and the jacks are also hanging around there, so if you get a couple of those while you're snook fishing, not a bad gig. Most of our snook right now are actually really big, running 31 to some of them going into the 40-inch range. And I've got a picture here of one that Cindy Levine caught with me the other day. And of course, you can see we were just off of the beach, just south of the inlet, and there's a lot of fish running the surf right now, so you surf anglers can get out there and do this too. Now, swinging offshore, king mackerel is on fire right now. I don't know how many more times I can say on fire, because everything in my region right now seems to be really good. But out of the Ponce and Canaveral areas on the 70 to 90 foot reefs, it's really good. All up and down the beaches where the water's clean. You've got tons of bait in my region. The mullet run has started right now. The pogies are thick. The red minnows, the glass minnows are there as well. And with those 4 different kinds of baits, the king mackerel are feeding heavily. Most of our mackerel are running about 8 to 18 pounds, and you can get them on a slow trolled live bait with a wire stinger rig. And I've got one here. Captain Justin Ross had a couple of guys out the other day. They had a real fun morning catching fish this size. A couple of them they kept, a couple of them they put back in the water to swim and live another day. And then my last species is flounder. The Real Legends region is a great place to catch flounder, and we have a resurgence of them this week. Like I was saying, the fall mullet run is kicked off, and the fingerling mullet are streaming down the beach. This has pulled the bigger flounder off of the offshore wrecks and reefs into those near coastal inlets, right side by side with the snook in some cases. Fingerling mullet on a 1/2 to 1 ounce jig head or slide and sinker or knocker rig with a 2/0 size circle hook, working really good. And as we move farther into the month, the flounder should only get better. But remember, the season doesn't close until October 15th, so get out there and catch yourself a few. And I've got one last photo here. This is a guy known as, around Ponce Inlet, as the Flounder Whisperer. That's Captain Naughty Diver himself, Mark Gibson, and that guy can catch some flounder. So if you're coming up this way and you want to do some fishing, give Captain Mark from Naughty Diver Charters out of Daytona Beach a call. The guy can put you on some fish.
You know what else he can do? He can get some camera time in the studio, Jack. He's here on every one of the live audiences. I'm so glad to have him in here in person.
Where's he at? Let's see him.
He's
Put him
right
on
there.
camera.
He's right there. All right, Bub. Thank you so much. Way to give us a great
Raise your
report.
hand.
There he is.
Yeah.
We're gonna go.
Hey,
We're gonna go ahead and take a
Mark
look
and
at
Christy.
the Rodan Marine Systems hotspot. I gotta cut you guys off, that gummit. Inshore, he says, snook at the Sebastian Inlet use live croakers or pigfish near the tip of the North Jetty. And then offshore, tarpon and sharks along the beaches fish live pogies or maybe live mullet near those bait pots.
We're just
Brie.
all so excited to be on TV.
Yeah, man.
All right, it's time to get ready for the 2022 Hunt for Redfishers presented by Full Tail Outdoors, October 8th and 9th, with the captains meeting on Friday, October 7th. The tournament region is from Ponce Inlet to Sebastian, and daily check-in is at 6 p.m. with the awards at the Grove Church in Titusville. There will be cash prizes for pro, amateur, and youth divisions in first, second, and third places. For more information and to sign up, go to huntforredfishers.com. If you want bass in the Garmin Panhandle region, Captain Pat Deneen has the scoop on the where and the how. So let's find those lunkers, Pat.
Hey, Brie, I tell you what, I'm not a bass fisherman or really a freshwater fisherman, but the Garmin Panhandle region does offer plenty of chances for those that are. The Escambia River, Chattahoochee River, Apalachicola River, their tributaries all provide good bass fishing. Tony Biggett, he's a local bass guru. He likes to fish the sloughs off the main river, often concentrating where the sloughs enter the moving water. He's using crankbaits and fixed rig worms. Additionally, many lakes are spread out through the Panhandle. You know, the bigger lakes like Talcon and Seminole, well known for the bass fishing, but plenty of smaller lakes like Hurricane Lake and the Sandhill Lakes north of Panama City are also really productive for bass fishing. And if you don't have the luxury to spend the day, you know, traveling to these inland lakes, you know, fishing the coastal lakes, basically the neighborhood ponds and the golf course ponds can be really good. David Miller of Destin, he takes advantage of those smaller waters, consistently catches good quality bass on blue, black, and red worms. And there's a photo there of a really fat, healthy bass he just recently caught in a golf course pond right there in Destin. I mean, so you don't have to travel for them apparently. But staying inshore, the bulk of this report comes from Panama City, where they're catching big Spanish mackerel in the bays, inlets, and along the beaches. The fish are coming off the points, the camelback humps, the jetties, and east of the inlet along the outer bar, you know, and also in the gully. Plenty of pilchards are around, so throw your net on them, load up your live well, anchor up where you have some moving water, and start live chumming. Free line your baits with short trace of wire, and pardon the siren, guys. 40-pound fluorocarbon or wire to prevent the cutoff. Smaller topwater chugger baits or a swim bait are also really effective, but not like chumming and live baiting. And those big Spanish are also being caught in the other Panhandle bait system, you know, particularly center of the sound. The bite is good for sure. Moving offshore, the amberjacks are once again in season and are being caught in decent numbers off the deeper wrecks and the higher relief natural bottom. You know, look for that deeper, further offshore structure. Stick 150 to 300 to 400 foot of water. A good, strong live bait is going to be best. You know, blue runners, probably the top live bait, but also big herrings, thread fins, or even ladyfish. You know, use a long leader. Let that bait have some swim around space. Enough lead to get your bait down to where the fish are marking, and a circle hook appropriate to the size of your bait. And there's a picture sent in from Ronnie Respondek over in Pensacola. It's a nice keeper amberjack caught by a young lady this past week off of Pensacola.
All right, Pat.
And
Go ahead.
Rick, finally, Rick, offshore, the good catches of mangrove snappers are coming off the reefs and the wrecks in less than 100 foot of water. The key is to get those fish up off the bottom by using some chum. Use your Rodan to hold up current or either above the structure, and then toss cut bait, small weakened menhadens, pilchards, or chum, or use a chum block to get those fish up and feed them. Use a light leader, 20 pound, maybe even down to 15 pounds. And then make sure that you pull your line off the rod tip so your chum bait falls at the same rate as your chum. And the mangroves are running a pound to maybe over 5 pounds.
All right, Pat Dart, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Blue Water Outrigger Panhandle hotspots inshore. Good flounder bite in Pensacola Bay, fishing small live pilchards, menhadens on the jig head, target structures, and use heavy enough jigs to hold the bottom. And then offshore, you want to check out the grass lines offshore of Panama City, about 8 to 10 miles out for the dolphin. Use light tackle and jigs, or maybe some live baits. Brie, I want to take a second to talk a little bit about the Rodan. The guys are all now using Rodans. They make up to 108-inch shaft on a lot of these big center console boats. And what they're finding, my good buddy Chris Trossett, you saw there in some of the B-roll, he tells me that in Key West, he's got it on his 35-foot contender, that he's saving his customers an hour to 2 hours in additional fishing more because he's not having to pull the anchor. He's not having to take that anchor off of the deck and put it away before they run to the next spot to get the anchor out. Now they're just deploying the trolling motor. They're actually getting exactly on the spot and not having to move when they miss the spot because of the wind.
Right.
It's working perfectly,
so
guys.
So many advantages for everybody.
You have to try it, because if you're an offshore guy messing around with an anchor, you can certainly do it in a center console.
You don't want to do that. All right, the Casveja Southwest region is talking bass and more, but first Dave has more Taco Marine new products at the CCA Workbench to talk about. Dave,
I do.
What you doing?
I'm just winding.
Winding?
I'm taking advantage of this free line that I've got. This is a cool little thing. Everybody should have one of these at home.
Yeah, they should. Keep reeling. You got 2 minutes.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Fenwick, feel everything. Tin Cup Mountain Whiskey. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin. Best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
So Dave, now it's my turn here at the CCA Workbench. It's time to troll the edge with Taco Marine.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about new products, one of my favorite segments within the show. So let's get into
Well, we're
it.
going to start with that cool HD line winder. HD means heavy duty, and it's a heavy duty line winder. It's a good, put your line on your spinning reels or your big conventional reels. And when it's expensive enough to fill up a reel or a rod. A reel. when you go to the tackle store, this stuff is expensive. But when you go do it at a tackle store, it's even more expensive because they put another charge on it to fill your stuff. If you do it at home, you save a lot of money. And this thing you can add a lot of extra tension to. You can attention to the spool, so you can actually pack your braid on really tight, which is
this is about.
Yeah, which is very important for when you're putting braid on. It's corrosion resistant, and it's you can fill it with a filler spool or a bulk spool. Put a big bulk spool on there, and it folds up nice when you're done. And it's nice and heavy. When you feel it, it's heavy duty, so it's not going to sliding around. You can put a lot of tension on it, and it's a great line winder. It just saves you a lot of time and money when you do it that way.
You know what else it is?
What's that?
It's mine.
I got you.
I'm taking this one home.
Pinfishing.com. You can get one of those.
Thank you.
There you go. Next, we got the Wrangler all-terrain gear. synthetic utility pants. These are made out of a synthetic material that is 94% nylon and 4% spandex, which is a great ratio that I like. And some of the shirts that we wear, they're really soft, they're really comfortable, they're water repellent, very durable pants. If you notice, they got a really nice lining up here around the top, so it gives you a lot of ease of motion and movement, and they're very comfortable. Zippered pocket on one side. They got 2 pockets on the back as well. They have nice gussets in the crotch area, extra fabric, as well as these nice kick plates in the back. If you're wanting to wear boots or whatever, there's nice reinforcement along the back of the pants as well. Come in regular fit, straight leg pants, and Wrangler.com.
I'm looking forward to trying these out.
Yeah, man, I think you'll look good in them.
They're my size.
They're short.
30-30.
Yes, exactly. If you say so.
I'm as wide as I am long, bub.
I remember those 31, 32 days, but that's a long time ago.
And I lied. They're 32-30.
I got you.
I'm a fisherman. What is that?
You're Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Bass Assassin, the little tapper there. They're bang lures. You get 12 to a pack. What's new about these is we got the new green pumpkin magic, and it's the same great action as the larger tap out worms, just slightly smaller. It's infused with the bang formula with the salt. I love the regular tap out worms.
Right.
But these are really nice. That little lobe at the end actually doesn't look like much, but it really adds a lot of action to it.
It does.
This is the green pumpkin magic. What's that one there?
That's
the watermelon.
Watermelon.
Those are the 2 brand new colors for the little tap outs. And I use the big tap outs as a Nico rig, and it would work actually well with this one as well.
Well, you know the old saying, elephants eat peanuts.
Exactly.
A big bass will eat a little bait.
Yes.
A lot of times it's hard to get a little bass to eat a big bait.
Right,
So you're going to catch more fish with it for sure.
Correct. Next, we've got the Bahio Piedra, and this is a really full frame, full wrap sunglasses. These are great for being out on the water, obviously. Got a durable bio-based frame.
Boy,
and you said, those are yours. I think those are going to be mine because, I think they are. They're temples, got wide temples that block out the light, polarized, blue light technology as well, that lapis technology. It blocks all the bad blue light out. Really gives you good color, clarity, and depth to everything you're looking at.
Yes.
They look nice on you, but that's too bad because I'm going to take those.
Dave,
because
you
mine,
can't take these away from me.
Other
Look
ones
at
that
this.
are not as good.
These even match my shirt.
Yeah, well, you don't wear that shirt all the time.
Here. Oh, Dave.
No, you don't. BahioSunglasses.com to go get some of those PH, or you can call me because I'm going to have those.
It's a
and
good
maybe
thing.
I'll sell them to you.
It's a good thing Kathy signed your check.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
Wow, Rick, everything over there is yours. 3 out of 4 things. They're mine. You sound like my toddler.
No, I'm taking the whole bench. The Bass Assassins, everything.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, now we're checking in with our Casa Vieja Southwest Region Captain Ronnie Houston with the skinny on the fatties. Ron, take us to the bite.
Well, first of all, I got to give a big shout out and congratulations to Scott Martin on a top 10 finish in the last event. He grinded it out. He needed to grind it, and he made it to the Bassmaster Classic for next year. Good job, Scott. The largemouth bass can be caught throughout the region, especially in areas east up the Peace River. You can catch them up the Caloosahatchee River all the way through LaBelle and to the east in the Everglades backcountry, and you generally want to start east of Lossman's 5. But most canals, rock pits, and golf courses will hold these fish. Now, high water or rainy season, current flow, culverts, spillways, bridge spans, but by late winter with low water levels, the fish are the easiest to find and catch because they will be grouped up. Now, the most common baits I like to use are going to be the top water walk the dog lures, thick baits or jerk baits, especially the Berkeley Cutter 90, prop baits or chugging lures. And if you look at all those baits, I'm trying to locate the fish and then I'll adjust. But when it comes to soft plastics, below Bass Assassin dye dappers, fat jobs, and a variety of worms, anywhere from 6 to 11 inches, we'll catch them all through the region. And there's a prime example of some hard work, catching some nice bass by Ron Houston in the region. The snook, funny thing happening here with the opening of snook season. I've had the opportunity to strictly fish for them. And actually I've had to locate new areas due to pressure with a lot of boats out there looking for these fish. Now, Indian Key to Lossman's River, you want to concentrate your efforts on the higher tides. Berkeley hijackers in bone and chrome, tight to the mangroves on your higher tides. But on your mid tides, your oyster bar edges, using Berkeley War Pigs, half ounce to 3/4 ounce. And on your lower tides, you want to get on those outer Gulf points and passes using the War Pigs and the Berkeley Choppos. And here we go again, vibrating and prop baits, locating the fish. Noise-making lures have been working the best for me, especially in the dirtier water where nobody wants to fish. Now, your lower tides have been best because the fish are schooled up in all the areas. The only problem is right now, there are many oversized fish. What there are, if you hit the numbers, few slot fish mixed in. I got a prime example of some fish that were recently caught a couple days ago with a guy I took was a big bait fisherman and caught him on topwater plugs. Wow. Before I go offshore, Naples Toca Soldier Fishing, this Saturday, September 10th, out of Hamilton Harbor. Guys, get out there and support the troops. Offshore, permit bite remains strong from Naples to Sanibel, fishing wrecks and artificial reefs if we have moderate weather enough to get out. Some of these areas are as close to 7 miles off the beach to 30 miles out. Now, reports I've gotten is getting out early can be key. Drifting across these areas or anchoring up or using your trolling motor on the anchor mode. Number one bait's going to be the live crabs, but if you're lucky enough to get out in some of them schools early, simply bringing bucktails and soft plastic paddle tails through those schools will get a reaction bite. You can catch some fish. Prime example of a guy's been catching them all year, West Fidel. Last species is going to be the mangrove snapper, which a lot of guys are going to be fishing for in the Naples Toca Soldier Fishing. According to Capt Corey McGuire to the north, you have a couple options. You can fish the fish during the day, but with this full moon we're having, if the weather is good, the nighttime bite is good. Sanibel Stunt Pass, 50 to 70 feet of water, fishing wrecks and ledges, but the wreck bite can be tough due to other predators, so he strongly suggests ledges seem to be better. Chumming and dropping back cut baits, either flatlined or a little bit of weight, 1/8 ounce to 1/4 ounce jig heads, all depends where these fish are on the water column. Weather's looking good for the weekend, both inshore and offshore. Get out and catch you some fish.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Caddy Can hotspots from the Southwest region. He says inshore, redfish in the Chatham River to Highland Beach on your mid tides using cut bait, live pinfish, pilchards, and gold spoons. And then offshore, the Spanish mackerel are being caught from the beach line out to 20 miles, fishing wrecks, bait pods, and diving birds from Naples to Fort Myers Beach.
I love how he says, and this is a picture of Ron Houston.
Yeah.
He is Ron Houston.
He is Ron
Just say this picture of me.
He is the Midnight Rider.
He is the man. He should call himself the Midnight Rider in photos.
He is the Midnight Rider.
In photos.
Oh,
anyway,
sorry.
The Discover Crystal River Northwest and Alta Equipment Northeast regions are taking the BASS stage next, so keep those lines tight. And remember to keep up with everything fishing in Florida. Make sure to head on over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and to see new fishing adventures along with reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I always forget the name of this one, Captain Rick Murphy.
Oh.
We'll be back.
How can you forget?
I don't know.
Look at...
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron. Start, run, and store with StarTron. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Fenwick, feel everything. Strike Zone Fishing. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Yanmar ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
Well, it's almost fall, which means winter isn't far behind, and in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region, that means big bass are on the horizon. So Tell us more, Hag.
We've got some great bass fishing in my region with 1,000 lakes and ponds we have. Our bigger fish are usually caught in the winter months when they're spawning, but all the same stuff everybody's been talking about. Shiners are a great bait. Plastic worms, most hard baits are really effective. We also have a unique way of catching them. We have a bunch of shad in our region. So the guys will actually go out and cast net shad, and they'll chum them up, and then they'll use them for chum. So it's kind of like you're snook fishing in fresh water, and you'll get a bat out and throw these shad out and let the schooling bass come up and pop them, and you can get them going just like snook pop at the top of the water. Really a cool way to catch them. But as far as big fish going, slow trolling shiners over grass bed is super effective. We got a ton of parks in my region with lakes and pond access. You don't have to own a boat to go bass fishing. Just get with local parks and recs and make sure you check with your local bait shop, and you can get some more information on places you can go get out there and go fishing if you don't have a boat in our area. Moving on inshore, Captain Jim Pollard of Big Daddy Sport Fishing out of Tampa Bay reports a good redfish bite right now. He's fishing the beginning of the outgoing tide with cut and live bait. He said they've both been working really well. Jim's been fishing around mullet schools, and most of his fish have been oversized fish, so take a little extra time with as hot as it is right now reviving those big fish. And I got a photo of one of those great fish from one of Jim's happy clients with a nice Tampa Bay redfish.
That's nice, Hag.
Awesome.
All right, what else you got?
Moving offshore, Captain Rob Davenport, Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete, reports the yellow edge grouper bite's been good. He's catching them right now in 500 to 600 feet of water using a whole squid or a live bait. Chicken rig's been doing the best with 2 to 3 pounds of lead depending on the depth and the current you're fishing. Deep drop spots can be kind of tough to find, and if you're going out there blind, a little tip for you is on your bottom machine, you gotta go to a bottom lock and just get the top 10 feet just above the bottom, and it zooms it in, and it makes it a little easier to see when you're out there, so you can find some more deep shot spots. That's a little tip that Rob shared with me, and I got a photo here of Derek with a nice yellow edge on a recent trip.
Nice.
It's good.
Good eating fish right there.
What else you got, Hag?
Staying offshore with Captain Rob out of St. Pete. The black grouper bite's been really good. A lot of same areas. He's catching gags and scamps. Catching some big black grouper right now. Drop one rod down with a little bit bigger bait, and you want to use a 6 to 8 foot leader, 100-pound leader, 12 to 16 ounces of lead depending on the current, and 10-aught circle hook. And I've got a photo here of Captain Crystal with a beautiful black grouper caught on a recent trip with a Big Nasty.
Oh my.
Wow.
Gosh.
All right, so I got some questions for you, bub. You're about 2 minutes short. I don't know what the hell you were doing on your report, but we'll figure it out. Hey, so the question I got for you, the redfish, you're talking about those big schools of redfish moving into your region. I just caught them at Flamingo yesterday, big giant schools, 200 acres big. I mean, you can't believe how many redfish there were there. I mean, 2 football fields, I'm sorry. But anyway, so what's the deal with that? Why is September all these big fish, where do you think they come from, Hag?
I think they're coming from offshore. I really do. And especially in the Tampa Bay area and like pouring into Sarasota, we've got Tampa Bay shipping channel. And I think they sit out there in that deep water and then come up on the flats. Especially right now, we got these really, really big tides. And I think they're coming up there to feed.
All right, so
coming out of that deep water.
So the next question is, do those big schools of redfish, are they mixed with jack crevalles, 8 and 10 pound jacks? Are they mixed in with them?
I only catch them like that when I catch them in the shipping channel before they get to the flat. If they get onto the flat, those jack crevalles usually peel off and stay in that 5 to 10 foot of water, seems to feel like to me. We rarely get those giant jacks mixed in with our redfish unless they're in a little bit deeper water.
So I got a trick for you. I'm going to ask you this question though. When the jacks are with them, how do you catch them? Because everything you throw in there gets eaten by a jack and you can't get the redfish. I learned a trick yesterday. I want to see what your opinion is though. Go ahead.
Throw a fast crab.
Ah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I threw blue crabs to them. I had some permit crabs with me and we threw crabs to them, and that's what the jack, he don't eat no crab.
No crabs.
Right.
No crabs.
So that's how you eat them.
He'll turn down that crab and that redfish will not.
That's exactly right. All right, well, thanks for keeping us straight on that.
You passed.
Yes, you passed.
The bonus round.
And you just suffered because you were 2 minutes light on your report, so next week we'll try to get a little more info for me, bud. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hotspots from the Northwest region. He says that the redfish on the bottom of the tide in the deep cuts adjacent to the mangrove shorelines on the flats use cut baits. And then offshore, hey, snappers on the high relief structure, 8 to 40 feet of water using shrimp and sardines with the light lead. You got to keep it going back. You'll catch them snappers.
Yeah, I love those bonus round questions. I think everyone learns a lot. This is why you get paid the big bucks.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm just over here, chum.
Got a question for you.
That's me. What?
When do I get paid?
Not by me.
Oh.
Steve.
Just looking forward to that.
All right, let's get Captain Tommy Derringer from the Alto Equipment Northeast region on the line to tell us all about our addiction that is fishing. Let's catch a bass, Tommy.
Let's catch one, Brie. Hey guys, we have an awesome Northeast region. It's an awesome place to catch some bass. You know, I've got a lot of great memories of catching bass when I was growing up. And, you know, it's available in just about any pond, big or small. And that's really one cool thing about bass fishing around here and pretty much all of Florida. Just about any body of fresh water is going to hold some largemouth bass. Now, I like to think of bass as the gateway fish. What I mean is a lot of people start off just casually fishing for bass in their backyard or neighborhood pond, and they have so much fun doing it, it leads them to get more into fishing and ultimately maybe into a bass boat and go after bigger bass or into the saltwater species maybe that we talk about here every week on the show. Now, bass fishing is also a great way to go catch some fish for the angler that has limited time to go fishing. Now, I got a bunch of buddies that they can go to one of the ponds by their house after work, catch a couple of nice bass, and still be home in plenty of time for dinner, not get yelled at by anybody. Now, we do have some of the best trophy bass fishing around right here in the St. Johns River. Just too many great bass fishing lakes to mention them all. You know, one cool thing about fishing for bass in that St. Johns and its creeks and the tributaries is that you can catch bass on one cast and then one of our saltwater species, like a redfish, on the next cast because, you know, a lot of it's brackish. Now, one way you can target bass this time of year is to fish around the docks of the St. Johns River with a live shrimp, a mullet, or even a shiner under a float. Now, you can catch some big bass, but you also can catch redfish, trout, flounder, even an occasional snook. Those snook are starting to show up more and more every year. Now, as it cools off over the next few months, the bass are going to get a lot more active, and it's going to be a great time to toss a topwater plug like the Berkeley Jaywalker. Man, everything likes that, redfish and the bass, especially first thing in the morning. Now, once the sun comes up a bit, you might want to switch to something like a lip plug or a soft plastic that gets down just a little bit. And I've got a picture here. My buddy Eddie Cabler sent me this picture of a couple of monster bass that he and his dad caught with Sean Rush on the Rodman Reservoir. There's some big old bass that come out of that area every year.
Wow, yep. They sure are.
Shaking
Tell us about the redfish, Tommy.
Yeah, man, you know, we got some cool redfish catching opportunities coming up over the next few weeks. First and foremost, it's flood tide season. You know, I just finished up a flood tide trip just a few minutes ago, in fact. Now, this weekend we have some really big tides, and the reds are going to be up in the grass looking for those little marsh crabs. You know, my game plan is to always get out there a little early before the flood starts, try to get in a position to watch the water come up into the grass. And you can watch the pattern of the fish that way, and you can really learn a lot about where they like to go. Now, my go-to rig for the flood tide fishing is going to be a saltwater assassin sea shad. Rig that on a weighted weedless hook. You know, anything with some brown or some gold sparkle is going to work really good. Now, it's also a great time to bust out the fly rod, toss a small shrimp or a crab pattern to some tailing fish. That's always a lot of fun. Now, the big bull redfish are also starting to show up in better numbers, kind of like you're talking about, Rick. They're going to start getting together and spawning now as we head into the fall months. Those big reds, you know, they're going to be schooling up, but here it's going to be a little deeper. They're at the bridges, the inlets, and the channel edges. Halved blue crab, live or cut mullet, and cut ladyfish, those all make great baits for those bull reds when you fish them on the bottom. Guys, just make sure those big fish get properly revived. Make sure they swim off strong so they can make a lot of babies for us. And I've got another picture here. This is our man Brandon Malpin with one of those bull redfish that he caught. He actually caught that right in front of us the other day, Rick, when you were up here filming with me for Sportsman's Adventures. Remember that fish?
I certainly do, man. It was a beautiful fish, great guide. It was good to be fishing next to him. All right, tell us what's happening offshore, bub.
Yeah, and the kingfish, the kingfish still been consistent both along the beach and on the reefs this week. I've seen some big fish coming from the beach and along the outgoing tide rip line in St. Augustine. You know, there's been some monster turbo-sized pogies in Salt Run, which are kingfish candy, but there's also been pogie pods along the beach. They're not real hard to find right now. Just net some of those pogies, troll them slow along the rip or near those bait pods on the beach, and you're probably going to find some kingfish and probably some big ones at that. Now, also offshore, I spoke to a couple of our bottom fishing experts this week. They tell me the mutton and the mango bite is still going strong. Captain Jason Hadges, he tells me he's been on a great mutton bite in about 150 on out to about 175 feet east of St. Augustine. Captain Jason said he's using a knocker rig with an 8-foot leader, and he's having to sometimes use up to 16-ounce egg sinkers depending on what the current's doing. Now, he said the best baits have been live sardines, but the dead ones are going to work as well. He's going to rig those on an 8 to 10-aught eagle claw circle hook. Now, Jason said although he's mostly been targeting those muttons, the mangrove snapper, they've been chewing in those same areas as well. And I've got one last picture here, guys. Captain Jason Hodges sent me this pic of his client with one of those big old mutton snappers that they caught this week offshore.
Tommy, man, you always win the prize for the big fish and the best pictures every week. Appreciate all your effort, and I don't know how you get all those good Photoshop pictures, I guess. I'm just kidding.
We did you dirty.
He's the best photographer. I really enjoyed being with you this past week, Tommy. We had a great time, and I'm looking forward to sharing that tarpon show with all our fans of Sportsman's Adventures starting in January. But it's time for the Strike Zone Northeast Hotspots. Tommy says inshore redfish and the Spartina grass on the flooded tide throughout the region, and then offshore muttons and mangrove snappers in 150 to 175 feet of water east of St. Augustine, Brie.
The photos, they start out blurred out in the background with the water falling off the fish, with the redfish, and then offshore it's just like, bam! Tommy.
Boom.
All right, boom. We've got our last region coming right up in the Yanmar ASB Keys region, so stay with us, and we'll be right back with your captain on the Florida Insider
Fishing Report.
Bass Edition.
That's it.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Shallow Sport. Penn. Let the battle begin. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. And Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
Power pole anchors have many tools. They are not just for fishing. I love it when I pull up to the beach or the sandbar and see a nice flats boat, bay boat, even a pontoon boat pull up, deploy their shallow water anchor, and enjoy their day out here at the island. Here are a few tips to help you choose the right spot to deploy the anchors and enjoy your day at the beach. First thing I need to do is decide where is the best spot to anchor the boat. I like to always take into account which side of the island or sandbar has the most boat traffic, which side of the beach or sandbar has the wind or the waves rolling in. I'm basically trying to find that nice calm spot. Lastly, I need to park the boat so that if the tide comes in or out, I can adjust the boat throughout the day so that I don't get stuck. After I have chosen the perfect spot, I like to nudge the nose of the boat up to the sand and deploy my power pole shallow water anchors. I always take out the rope and chain and throw it off the front and secure the bow, just in case we walked away in a big wave or the tide were to come in. Throughout the day, I pay attention to the tide and readjust the boat based on the water level, but with the power poles, that is easy because all you have to do is hit the up and the down button, and that's your power pole tip.
That's a pretty good tip.
Yeah, man. Oh, Dan, knock it down.
Knocking it down. All right, as versatile as the Yanmar ASB Keys region is when it comes to species, bass won't be making the list, but let's check with Captain Sarah Stanzik and see what she can tell us is swimming around in the saltwater paradise. Go for it, Sarah.
Hey, everyone from the Yanmar ASB Keys region. Yeah, you're right, Brie. We do not have any bass here in the Keys, anywhere to be exact, because all we have is the ocean and saltwater, and there's no fresh ponds or lakes or anything like that where bass live, we all know. So I'll just take this chance to talk about the uniqueness and the variety of fishing the Keys has to offer. It is one of the only places in the world, possibly, that you can be fishing offshore, like 300 feet deep and catch a marlin or sailfish on the reef. And then you take like a 10 or 15 minute boat ride and you're in water less than a foot deep and can catch a bonefish on the flat. So that's like a really cool aspect if you think about it for a minute, to have like pelagic fish offshore like mahi, tuna, wahoo, reef fish, snappers and groupers, and then all of the backcountry shallow water species like snook, redfish, tarpon, bonefish. I'm not even naming all the species, but those are just like the most popular ones people know about that you can catch here in the Keys. There's so many fish you can catch here, especially in the Alamorada area where I live, because we're kind of like the center hub of both of those offshore and inshore fishing areas. So it's like a 10 or 20 mile radius that's around us. So it's really crazy. It's really cool when you think about it like that. So anyway, there's a fish for everyone here in the Keys, and I've said this many times, I'll say it again. If you're coming here to the Keys to visit and you want to go fishing, hire a charter boat or a guide, hire a captain, and leave the rest up to them so you can just enjoy yourself. So many of the boats locally are second or third generation captains that if they've lived here their whole life, they know exactly what to do, and they'll put you on the dream fish that you want to catch, whatever that species may be. Here's a cool photo of just a charter boat heading out to fish at sunrise.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
and they can call Bud and Mary's and book those charters, right, Sarah?
Sure, Bud and Mary's. Oh, any of the charter guys in the Keys. But if you want to come to Islamorada, I'm going to say Bud and Mary's. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, let's talk a little bit about inshore. What about the triple tails?
We've had some triple tail caught lately. Another one of my most favorite species to catch. They're really fun sight fishing and casting, like visual fishing for them, which is a lot of fun. They're goofy, like prehistoric looking fish. They have hard scales and they're really hard, tough to fillet, but they're definitely in my top 3 favorite fish to eat, like the whitest, flakiest meat ever. Super good to eat. We'll catch them like around the commercial trap buoys on the bay and in the Gulf, where they can be seen kind of drifting around the bay and channels more into Everglades National Park, and you just cast at them. Cast a live shrimp is probably their favorite bait. You just got to make a cast near enough that they can see it, but not land it right on top of them because they spooked. But fun fish to catch.
All right. What about some offshore?
Offshore, we have some swordfish action lately. This is getting into the favorite time of year, swordfish for me and Nick, which is like late summer, early fall. It's mostly because the weather right now is so nice, like just mild winds and conditions. So it's nice to be able to go out, 25 or 40 miles offshore with the weather being so calm this time of year to target the swordfish. But overall, we see nice quality fish caught in September and October. Just yesterday, actually, a boat at the marina brought in a 303 pounder. So that was yesterday. I just threw that in the report right now, but that was a nice fish. And a lot of times, just by coincidence, they can be pumpkin fish this time of year, nothing to do with fall or autumn, but it's just their diet this type of year can give their meat that really orange glowing color, and they are so good to eat. Those pumpkin swordfish are amazing. So if you're going to go target swordfish, you want to be anywhere between 15 and 1,800 feet deep. And for bait, we like to use a whole squid or a mahi or bonito belly strip, and you're going to drop that bait all the way to the bottom and make a long drift and look for bites. That's how we catch swordfish. A lot of practice and perfecting how your boat drifts and everything. So there's some technique that goes into it, but it's a good time. And here's a photo so you guys can see the difference between a pumpkin swordfish and a regular swordfish. You can see how glowing orange the pumpkin meat is.
All right,
cool.
Tell us about the mahis.
And mahi, offshore, we're starting to look for signs of them around 500 feet deep on average, but they can be deeper or shallower than that. So you want to look for weed lines and marine debris floating, birds diving down on bait, and live pilchards are a great bait to use, or frozen squid and ballyhoo work well too. Here's a cool underwater photo taken by Kevin Dodge.
All right, thank you so much. Good job, Sarah. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boats, hot spots from the Florida Keys. She says inshore, good numbers of bonefish around the inshore flats. Look for the fish waking or just swimming in groups, or maybe a single, just cast ahead of them. Hopefully they'll swim into your bait and they'll find it and you'll end up catching one. And then offshore, the swordfish, there's been some fish around the last week with boats catching multiples. Drop your bait to the bottom in 15 to 1,800 feet of water, and then try to keep your line vertical as the boat drifts with that offshore current.
Pumpkin sorties.
Pumpkin.
The best. Pumpkin. All right, now let's take a look at some tournaments coming up in the Florida Keys. First, we have the Herman Lucerne Memorial Backcountry Fishing Championship, where anglers fish only in the boundaries of Everglades National Park, areas that Lucerne favored to target tarpon, redfish, snook, sea trout, snapper, bonefish, black drum, or bass. Then we have the Marathon International Bonefish Tournament, which has been around for 60 years, making this Mid-Keys tournament one of the oldest. Next is the Take Stock in Children Backcountry Challenge, where trophies for trout, snook, and redfish are awarded in this annual fundraiser, supported supporting local vocational scholarships, and take stock in children's scholarships. And last, we have the Ladies Let's Go Fishing Fever Inshore Offshore Tournament, where female fishing fans immerse themselves in an annual weekend seminar to learn inshore, offshore, bottom, and fly fishing, and compete in a tournament designed for beginners. For more information on tournaments, visit flakeys.com.
That's it.
But anglers, it's been fun hitting up Florida's freshwater superstar, but the captains have spoken, and it's time to get out there this weekend and catch your PB. But don't reel up just yet, because we're telling you what we're chatting about next week on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. Look at all the people.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I see them.
Welcome back. Next week, we are talking Wahoo, so make sure to tune in. You know, it's our second to last show of the season. Give me some of that whiskey on my cry. Tin cup. Oh my goodness. Thank you for everybody that came out today. Our amazing live audience. Scott Martin, obviously. Gentlemen.
Cheers.
Valley Sports. Thank you all for coming out. It's been a great show. I'm gonna go catch some bass this weekend. What do you think?
I'm gonna
go bass fishing too, but not till Sunday.
Not till Sunday.
I got a date with a tarpon tomorrow and a snook the day after that.
All right, well, you two drink that. I'm going to say bye.
Bye,
and
guys.
we'll see you next week right here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.